From the White House in the office of the President of the United States, we present an address by Dwight D. Eisenhower. This is the farewell address for President Eisenhower, whose 8 years as chief executive come to an end at noon Friday.
Good evening, my fellow Americans. We now stand 10 years past the midpoint of a century that has witnessed 4 major wars among great nations. 3 of these involved our own country. We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. 3.5 million men and women are directly engaged in the defense establishment. Now, this conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry is new in the American experience. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications.
Indeed, the grave implications of the military-industrial complex. That's what we cover here every Thursday on Deep Politics Live, every Thursday at 6 o'clock live on Channel 76, accesssf.org here in San Francisco and over the World Wide Web. Good evening. My name is J.P. Lagos. I am the host, producer, and the technical crew coming out of the Flash studio here in downtown San Francisco on a scorcher of an evening, scorcher of a day. The temperature's hitting over 100 here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and everybody maxed out in terms of being dehydrated. So we hope you're watching tonight. If you're indoors, take it easy. We're going to do part 2 of our interview with candidate Myrna Lim. Myrna Lim is running for District Supervisor of San Francisco District 11. We're going to get into some other issues we didn't cover on our last program, which we did a week ago. Tonight being May the 15th, 2008. And I want to thank Myrna for agreeing to come back on. Thank you, Myrna.
Thank you. Good night.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah. What I wanted to go over with you is, first question. We have a major state Supreme Court decision tonight. This morning regarding same-sex marriages, and I want to congratulate all our viewers tonight who are same-sex couples on attaining their right to marriage, and I wanted to know what your view on that is.
I like to joke about that. When people ask me about it, I say that, well, I'm divorced, so I'm not an expert on marriage. I'd be the worst person to ask about marriage. No, but I think it's a great thing. I think it's high time that people, no matter what their gender affiliation is, should be able to do what they want to do. It's really a union of 2 people, and bottom line is, a marriage is a contract. So given that it's a contract, that people should be able to allow to enter into that contract, and the consequences, of course, is theirs, but they should have the opportunity to do it if they want to.
And of course, this whole court battle was initiated just a few years ago by the mayor of San Francisco and the people surrounding him, and it all originated here in San Francisco. What's your take on that? You're running for supervisor. You have a mayor that initiated this, and what's your take on that?
Well, it's good for him. I mean, he obviously used the gay marriage for it to become a national issue. I remember, however, though, when the whole thing broke out, it was a presidential election.
Yes.
Just like this one with John Kerry.
Right.
And, there are people who are still blaming the mayor for having mistimed the whole presentation on the gay marriage, that the Christian right, were able to use it against a Democrat at that time.
Yes.
And are wanting to blame him that, look what we ended up with: 4 more years of Bush, the Iraqi war.
That's a good
economy.
Not to take away from the decision today, but that is a good point, political point, that it could be used to backfire on the Democrats in the presidential and congressional year. Exactly. You're right. Well, let me get into the part 2 of our interview. By the way, I want to remind our viewers that are watching tonight, you can phone in at 621-4473 and ask Myrna anything you want about San Francisco politics. She's been heavily involved in San Francisco politics for years, is involved in a major civil suit against the Ethics Commission, so I'd like to get into that a little bit tonight. But anything that you want to ask Myrna about San Francisco politics, why she's running, what she intends to do, you can phone in at 621-4473 and ask Myrna Lim anything you want about politics here in the city, and the deep politics. And the first thing I want to get into is the deep politics of your candidacy. You feel that you may be have been railroaded by the Ethics Commission.
Exactly.
And there was a article that came out in the March 11th, 2008 SF Daily about this. Would you like to comment on that? What this whole ruling was about? I mean, this whole lawsuit and this tug of war that's going on between you and the Ethics Commission.
Well, basically, I think that the issue between the Ethics Commission, myself, and the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force is an issue of open and transparent government and accountability of government. And I think that given the goals and objectives and the code of ethics of the Ethics Commission, that the bar for them has to be higher in terms of making sure that sunshine ordinances are complied with, that California Public Records Act are complied with, and they cannot be spared the burden, of making sure that every single person, the public, candidates, and campaigns are given the opportunity to know what's against them.
Now let me ask you, Myrna, are they withholding certain records that you're seeking?
Exactly.
They're withholding certain records. What records are those that you think they may have that they refuse to give you regarding your background or your candidacy?
Well, what happened was when I ran last time for supervisor, in June of 2004, the Ethics Commission received an, quote, anonymous complaint against me. But I never heard anything after that or about the complaint. And then, lo and behold, in 2007, April 10 of 2007, I received a warning letter from the Ethics Commission stating that there was a complaint filed against me for violating some conflict of interest laws, allegedly, when I served in the Planning Commission of the City and County of San Francisco in years 2001 and 2002. But that supposedly there was the case was dismissed, but they found me in technical violation of this conflict of interest law. So I was really annoyed because, first of all, and they were talking about a certain contract that I had. It's my livelihood. I had a contract with City College of San Francisco managing their properties, but I've had it since 98, like 4 years, 98, 5 years before I became appointed to the Planning Commission. And so that's one. The second thing is, it turned out that the Ethics Commission themselves had a secret hearing about my situation the day before, and they decided that the case was dismissed. Facts do not support violation. And yet, the executive director sent me a letter stating that, well, the case was dismissed, but we found you in technical violation. So I went first to the Ethics Commission and says, first of all, you cannot just say that about me or anybody. We have our fundamental right process, our due process of law. In America, we're in America, and you guys, of all people, the Ethics Commission should know that compliance with the due process is very important. I says, how would you like it? I turned the table around. How would you like it if you worked very hard on a volunteer job?
Yeah.
The Planning Commission was pure volunteer. I worked hard for 30 hours a week for like a year, and I have a day job, and I have my daughter.
And you were appointed to this. You were appointed to the Planning Commission by then Mayor Willie Brown.
Exactly.
Okay.
and
Okay.
it was, I considered it a privilege to serve
Uh-huh.
on a volunteer basis. I spend my own money, traveling, looking at sites, talking to people, making sure that the planning codes are complied with, making sure that we follow the law,
Right.
and so forth. So, and I always consulted with the city attorney's office. And by the way, I went through a vetting process. I went through a very rigorous confirmation process through. Have you been gone through a confirmation process with Matt Gonzalez, Aaron Peskin, and Chris Daly? Those
And
are
they
top guys.
and all three of those supervisors confirmed you, right?
Exactly. Well, they had a hearing about me. First, I went through the rules committee. They know they had a copy of my resume. They know my background. So it took a whole month for the hearing process to go through. I went before Chris Daly, Matt Gonzalez, and Aaron Peskin. Oh, and Jake McGoldrick. That's the rules committee.
And during that process, there was no conflict of interest that was
No,
discovered, right?
No, exactly.
Right.
And the fact is, they had my resume. It'll be like, if you're trying to confirm somebody in the Supreme Court, that is your burden to make sure. If somebody gives you, an open book on their lives,
Yeah.
knowing that you're going to go into public service, and you tell them, okay, here it is.
Yeah.
Investigate as much as you want.
We got a call here.
Oh, great.
Yes, caller. Yes, caller. You're on the air. You have a question for our guest tonight. Our guest is Myrna Lim. She's a candidate for District 11 Supervisor here in the city.
Is this real America?
This is Deep Politics Live, caller. You got the right show?
Well, is this real?
Yes.
Is this real America?
This is Real America.
Oh, this is.
That's why we call it Deep Politics.
Oh, okay.
You have a question for our guest. She's running for San Francisco Supervisor.
What about taxes? What is her, opinion on taxes?
What particular tax do you have in mind?
Well, maybe just like in general, tax. Her, in general, kind of.
Taxes on property, taxes on working people.
Okay, yeah, property taxes, yeah.
Okay, that's a fair one. You want to hang on and listen to her answer?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
Right.
or you can take your answer off the air.
No, okay, it can be on the air.
Okay. All right. Thank you, caller.
Okay, yeah.
All right. You want to answer that?
Sure. I mean, I think we're paying a lot of taxes, and that's why, when the government, like the city of San Francisco, when the city of San Francisco imposes fines on the average person, working person, when they impose parking tickets or increase in parking tickets, increases in fines, in paving your own front yard, in property taxes and so forth, a lot of these taxes become very regressive for the poor and the middle class and working people.
Right.
Because what happens is, if you say, like a lot of people in City Hall make over $100,000.
Yeah.
It's so funny. My favorite story would be when Executive Director Nathaniel Ford was like very shocked that some people are complaining about parking tickets. He says, why are these people complaining about getting a ticket? With me, when I get it, I just pay it. I don't say anything about it.
Well, he probably gets it written off.
Well, first of all, his salary is like $400,000, right?
Right.
Whereas I wrote an article, and the average person, like a single mother, who's got like a job working at Cragen's Auto Parts at barely minimum wage, and she's got a kid, and she needs a car.
Right.
When you're paying $40 or like $100, that is your grocery bill right there.
Right.
I mean, and what's so sad about is that, if you don't pay the parking ticket in 30 days, it becomes $100. Well, if you cannot afford the $50, how can you afford $100?
Right.
And just keeps on piling up and piling up. And now, lately, there is this big scandal about people getting fined $100 because their garbage cans were in full view.
Yes.
When did that happen? I'm still scratching my head when I read about that in the paper.
Well, it got slipped under the radar, as they say. Some things get slipped under the radar.
$100. I mean, the average person. You take your garbage out like the night before, right? Because it's gonna get picked up in the morning.
Right.
But then you have to go to work, so you don't mess around with your garbage. You leave it and then you bring it back in when you go home.
Yeah. Does that answer your question, caller?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you for more taxes or fewer taxes yourself?
Well, I'm kind of want fewer taxes. But I think she answered my question. I guess another question I have is, what do you think about the war in Iraq?
The war in Iraq. This question comes up from time to time with our local board of supervisors. Some people would say, what business does the board of supervisors have meddling in international affairs? What's your response to that?
Well, first of all, it's a war that we should have never gotten into. And in as much as, the Board of Supervisors kind of annoys me sometimes when they just come up with certain policy statements, but I think that over the years it's become clear that part of the reason why we are experiencing such a bad economy today is because of the Iraqi war. And the former chairman of Federal Reserve, Alan Greenspan, finally admitted that before he was retired from the Federal Reserve, he had been warning the federal government and say, we have a spending problem here.
Right.
When you're spending trillions of dollars in a war that cannot be explained, that we're in a war where bottom line is it's about oil. It's not about protecting Iraq or so forth. It's a war that we should have never gotten into. So then there's a trickle down. So the federal government spends and wastes trillions of dollars every year on a war we should not have gotten into. And that's why we're suffering today.
Right.
On a local level, because it goes from federal to state and to local.
To local, right.
So, it's an issue that is a very important issue, and hopefully with this presidential election that's coming up in November, hopefully our Democratic nominee or independent would have the gusto to say, hey, let's get out of there.
Right. Does that answer your question, caller?
That's it's interesting. Very interesting. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, thank you for calling.
Okay. Yeah.
Call again in the future.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Yeah. You too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. All right, and you're welcome to phone in and ask another question of Myrna Lim here at 621-4473. Myrna, we have a few minutes left. I want you to quickly go over some of the issues and where you stand on them in your candidacy for supervisor. And I'd like to let our audience know Myrna will be having a show here on Channel 76 live very soon, coming up right after me in the next few weeks. So be prepared to watch her on her own show coming up soon. Okay, where do you stand on a few of the other issues that we didn't cover in our last interview? For example, the latest issue being to shut down half of the police stations in San Francisco.
I just heard about that, and I think it's goofy as goofy can be.
Yes. You support neighborhood police stations.
Definitely.
Yes.
Definitely. And I think Ross McConaughey had made some progress in terms of, community policing and foot patrol and so forth. In District 11, crime is a big thing. Crime is a very major issue.
Yes.
For the district in terms of, robbery, in terms of homicide, in terms of, just assault, crime on property. So which stations will they close? Is
Yes.
the question. Will we lose our station?
Right.
You know, we happen to have a very good, station, and we have the Ingleside station. We have Dennis O'Leary, Captain Dennis O'Leary, and before that, Captain Paul Chanel. They're very able police officers, and the fact is, if you have police presence, it to a large extent it deters, crime. So I'm not quite sure, where that's coming from or the rationale for it, but I think it's wrong place, wrong time.
Another question I have for you, rent control. There's a ballot measure on the state ballot, Proposition 98, that would repeal rent control statewide. Where do you stand on rent control? It's a hot issue here in the city. It's been on our books now for 30 years. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I've been evicted myself,
So you've been a renter.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And as a matter of fact, what's so annoying about that was, we got evicted through owner move-in. I was already single then. I have a daughter, a little kid, and the new owner, landlord, bought the property first. They moved into the ground floor, and then after that, they wanted to move into the upper floor.
So you support rent control?
Yes, I support rent control with certain limitations.
Okay. Well, we don't have enough time to get into that. I want to thank you for coming on, Myrna. And Myrna's going to have her own show very soon here on SF Live, I'd say in the next couple of weeks. So be prepared to watch Myrna live here while she declares her candidacy and runs for office here in San Francisco. I want to thank you for coming on, Myrna, and I hope to have you on again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and we'll have you on again. And I want to remind our audience we're on every Thursday at 6 o'clock right here on Channel 76. This replays on Saturdays at around noontime, and then again on Monday afternoons, and then watch our 1-hour program on Sunday nights at 7. Have a good night, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.